Do you believe? Is there anything out there? Things that go bump in the night. Are they the pipes, the wind, or a ghosty ghoulie from the past? Have you ever had a ghostly encounter? I'm interested this morning. If there's anybody listening to this show that is absolutely convinced they've seen a ghost, come on and ring me now. I think it's a right load of old bunkum. But I may be wrong. I will respect you and your opinion. 08459 25 2000. Are you Scooby-Doo? Have you seen a ghost? Well, next month, Peterborough Museum is set to become the scene of a paranormal investigation. It'll be led by Ghost Hunt East Anglia. Let's talk to the two directors. Interesting. One's a sceptic and one's a true believer. Sceptic Paul Butler, good morning, sir.
Good morning.
True believer Joanne Hunt, good morning.
Good morning.
Now, when you were chatting to my producer Paul, you both said you had different takes. So how do you work together when one of you is saying it's not happening and one of you is saying, oh no, it's definitely a ghost? How does that work, Paul?
It actually works very well. We're a great team. I'm obviously one of the sceptics of the team, and it's my job to try and debunk stuff. I mean, we've had stuff in the past where people have said, oh, I'm feeling a chill, and I'm the person that looks around and says, yes, you're standing next to a vent, or we've had meters going off, and I've said, yeah, you're next to an electrical socket.
So you're the Thelma of the group, basically.
Yeah, basically. I try to debunk stuff, and if something happens that we can't debunk, then it makes it so much more interesting at the end of the day.
Yeah, it's either Thelma or Scully, and Joanne, you're Mulder or Shaggy.
That's right.
And what makes you believe so deeply that there are ghosties and ghoulies out there going a bump in the night?
For me, it's a personal experience. I saw my granddad when I was very little at the age of 8, and it's gone from there.
Did you really see him?
I definitely saw him.
Describe the moment, then, if you can.
I was in bed. I hadn't been feeling very well, and I know a lot of people say it's because I wasn't feeling very well. But at that age, you wouldn't expect to see what I saw. I clearly sat up in bed. I was going to go and get my dad from downstairs, and I saw my grandfather sitting at the edge of the bed, and he was as transparent as you or me are, but you could put your sort of hand through, him as a person. And he said nothing and smiled, and as quick as he was there, he was gone. And it's very strange. I have seen mediums after the event growing up into my adulthood, and they've all said the same thing without me saying a word. You've seen your granddad, haven't you? Because he's telling me so. They wouldn't know that.
Did you see a granddad, Paul?
I'll be honest, I have never ever seen a ghost in my life. The weirdest thing I've ever had was the Clink prison in London, where 4 of us actually heard monks chant, and we went round the whole prison to see if there were speakers plugged in anywhere. And we even went outside, and there was no one outside with radios playing monk music, funny enough, but 4 of us heard that. And I really can't explain that, but have I actually seen anything, apart from an odd light here and there, which could be bugs floating about or what? No, I can't honestly say I've ever seen a ghost.
There are places, though, that you go to and you feel something, aren't there? I remember staying at a place in New England once. I went skiing, and it was a really, really old place. And I just, things moved, things rocked. Things happened that I couldn't explain, but I didn't think it was ghosts. I don't know what I felt it was, Joanne.
The thing is as well, a lot of people have different experiences, and it does, as say Paul says, it works well in a group when one of you believes and one of you don't believe, because it gives that healthy balance. But I love it nothing more than when someone can turn around to me and say, I'm not entirely sure, I can't explain it, I don't know what it is. And I respect their opinion, but it's so interesting when you get that result. And you do sense and you do feel things in certain locations that you wouldn't feel anywhere else.
Have you found anything whilst you've been on the ghost hunt with Ghost Hunt East Anglia?
For me, I have experienced lots of things being touched, coldness across your cheek, shadows that you can see moving, which you think, hang on a moment. But as I say, Paul's really good, and he will try and debunk things. But
have you debunked everything, Paul? Have you debunked everything Joanne's seen?
Not everything, no. I mean, if people say they see things, I have to respect them and say, yes, they did see them. We obviously do try to look around and see if there was anything that we can explain naturally, what like if there was a car headlight going past, for example.
Well, you're off to Peterborough Museum soon, aren't you, for this investigation?
We are, yes.
And I know why you're going, because it used to be an old infirmary, didn't it? And I've spoken to Stuart Orme, who works there at the museum. He's a sensible chap. He's a very intelligent man. He's going to tell you, Paul, and he's going to tell us in the next 20 minutes, he's seen ghosts.
Fantastic. That's what I want. Once I've seen something, I can turn around and say, yep, I've seen something. I can't explain it. I have to accept it. But until that day, I've got to sit on the fence, unfortunately.
Yeah. Are you looking forward to this investigation, Joanne?
Oh, I'm so looking forward to this one. It's a brand new location and we've never been. And as say, Stuart, who I've been speaking to, it's been fantastic throughout the whole thing and working with us very well. So really, really excited.
When are you going? When are you going to be there?
We're going to be there on the 18th of October.
Well, listen, I hope you stay safe. I hope it all goes well, Paul, and you don't end up with ectoplasm all over your face.
I hope not, because I believe it's held the shift.
Listen, thank you for coming on this morning. Really appreciate it. Paul Butler and Joanne Hunt, directors of Ghost Hunt East Anglia, One Believes, One Disney. Stuart Orme is an intelligent fellow. He's well-read, well-educated, and yet you have seen and heard things that you can't explain, haven't you, in Peterborough Museum?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I think the caveat I put on all of this, Paul, is that a large portion of what people report as ghosts has a perfectly rational explanation to it. So,
what about that, though? A face in the windscreen?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. A lot of people do report sort of roadside happenings. We get sort of people who report sort of seeing passengers in cars who weren't there a moment ago suddenly disappear and all sorts of things. There are lots of sort of roadside ghost stories in the same way as there are in buildings. Ghosts don't have to be necessarily inside, the dark and stormy night and the sort of the old house, the creaking building and all the rest of it, as we like to imagine in traditional ghost stories. So, I mean, the thing with it is always look for the rational first out of it. So probably 80-90% of ghost sightings can probably find a perfectly rational explanation to them. But then there's the other 10% which is interesting, and I think there's definitely something out there which is a little bit beyond our sort of understanding and our explanation. And, I think sometimes very old buildings like Peterborough Museum, for example, have memories to them. And if you're the right person in the right place at the right time, it's like pressing the play button and seeing these images from the past played back before your very eyes.
Because plenty has happened there in the past. I mean, it was a hospital of sorts, wasn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, the building itself, the oldest parts of the building date back as far as 1536. This is always reckoned to be the grandest mansion in the city. The original house built here sort of back in the Tudor period. The core of the current building dates to 1816, when again it was a grand mansion. And then when the owner of that house died, then the building then became the first hospital in Peterborough, which is the Peterborough Infirmary, which it was from 1857 until 1928.
What have you heard? What have you seen? And what are Ghost Hunt East Anglia going to get when they get there?
Well, I mean, I think in terms of things I've had happen around the building, I'll come to in a moment. In terms of ghost hunts inside the building, we're very open about it in the fact that, we allow people sort of to go around the building. We allow people into parts of the building that aren't normally open to the public. So things like our famous cellars underneath the building, which we've had a variety of activity reported in over the years. We also, as well, sort of kind of give them a bit of a tour around the building and obviously allow them to explore the place. We don't set anything up. It's not like you see on the telly on certain ghost hunt programmes which shall remain nameless, where people run around screaming and it all happens to order. I'd far rather people went away at the end of the evening and nothing happened, but they know that it's real.
Just very quickly, Stuart, we're running out of time. What have you seen? What have you heard?
What have I seen? Well, the last time I saw something strange was about a year ago, and I was here with two colleagues setting up an exhibition inside the building, and they were at the back of the gallery doing some work. This was about 9-10 o'clock in the evening, and I happened to glance towards the gallery door, and this woman walked past the doorway, and she looked like a living, breathing person. She looked the same as you or me. She was about 40 years old, long dark blue Victorian dress, white pinny on the front. She was in full colour. She wasn't a grey, misty person. Never seen her before in my life. She just walked past the doorway, this sort of Victorian lady, shot out onto the corridor to follow her, and she just disappeared into thin air. There was nobody there.
Well, I've got the shivers now, Stuart. I've got the shivers. Stuart, thank you for that. Stuart Orme from Peterborough Museum. Oh, really, the